Welcome everyone to the fourth round of the 2011 GP4 Offline Championship. We are here for the fourth round, the Turkish Grand Prix at the Istanbul Circuit, and I am your host, George, and we are here at the Istanbul Circuit for the fourth round. So, we are here for the fourth round of the season. Third round was held at the Chinese Grand Prix, which was won comfortably in the end by Joseph Willows. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this weekend at the Turkish Grand Prix, which I believe, unfortunately, will be the final Turkish Grand Prix, as the Turkish Grand Prix may not be on the calendar next season because of problems regarding getting the crowds to the circuit. But the racing hopefully should be good around this track. Of course, we've got 14 corners, and we've got that infamous turn 8. That is the triple three left-handers. So that should make some very interesting racing. And also, in the 2011 real-life season is where they had the most overtakes and pit stops in any race in Formula 1 history. So everything is looking good for this one. But anyway, we are here for the grid. So Joseph Willows is on pole position with Waze Kuba in second place, and Lucas Levi, who replaced Ren Jans behind the scenes, in third place with Miklos Gau in fourth, Florian Volker in fifth, with James Willows behind in sixth. Seventh place on the grid, as we go down the order, is Evan Byrne, and in eighth place is Felix Sontag. Not a particularly great qualifying from Evan Byrne, but I'll hope to do better than that in the race. In ninth place is George Roque, followed by Robert Ionescu, who qualified a pretty impressive 10th in that car, considering it is certainly not one of the best cars on the grid this season, that is for sure. 11th place is Roland Morton, followed by Alex Southgate from Mercedes. Not a particularly fantastic qualifying from him, so he'll need to improve that for the race. Jay McKenzie in 13th, followed by Viggo Holst in 14th place. Not exactly the qualifying that Viggo Holst would have wanted, but hopefully he will improve that for the race as well. In 15th place is Sam Thompson, followed by Amar Carr in 16th. 17th place is Rivki Farkhussein, followed by Xavier Quinlan in 18th. 19th place on the grid is Adam Wolf, followed by Michael Mocho in 20th place. The Williams cars, unfortunately, not particularly good this season. And on the last row of the grid, we have the version of Sean Grant and Roman Quagg in the Lotus. So that is the grid for the Turkish Grand Prix. 58 laps around Istanbul. And now we will see what the weather will be like for the Grand Prix. And as we now take a look at the weather, and it will be bright sunshine for the whole race. Not really particularly much of a surprise, considering I don't think it rained in any Turkish Grand Prix since it started in 2005. And I'm pretty certain in the GP4 RC it hasn't rained in any race either. So anyway, that is the weather for this race. Not really any change there, the dry conditions. But anyway, we are now on the grid. So Joseph Willows on pole, Waze Kuba second, Lucas Levi taking a shock third after replacing Ren Jans for this race due to problems behind the scenes. We now have 3 lights, now 4 lights, and we now have 5 lights. And the Turkish Grand Prix is underway. And it looks like Joseph Willows has made a great start, and Levi's made a fairly decent start. Kuba is just about going to hold Levi into turn 1 as Miklos Gau is trying to make a move on Levi for third, but he can't quite do it. And it looks like at the moment everyone has avoided contact going into turn 1, but Joseph Willows is first, Waze Kuba second, Levi third, Gal fourth, Volker fifth, James Willows sixth, 7th is Byrne, 8th is Sontag, 9th is Roque, Moitins 10th, 11th is Ionescu. That's not a good start. And already we have a car at the race, and that's Xavier Quinlan, and I think Roman Quagg was involved. That is not the start that Quinlan would have needed. Already got hit in the back, so it looks like there was something that happened at turn 1. So Quinlan, who was running in 18th, he made not a brilliant start, to be honest. He made a pretty poor start, actually. He got dropped behind Adam Wolf. But as they get into turn 1, and he had contact from behind by Quagg, so Quagg went into the back of him. And I think there was actually another incident as well, aside from that. Let's go on board with Quagg. He made a particularly good start. Grant beside him didn't, and Quagg was in 21st, and he just went into the back there of Quinlan. They all stacked up into turn 1, and Grant nearly went into Mocho there as well. And it was Mocho who was the one who was actually hit Quinlan off the track. So both Lotuses involved there at the first corner, not the start they would have wanted. But it looks like Mocho has somehow got away with any damage at all. So I don't know how he's managed to get away with that. But for Quinlan, unfortunately, his race has ended at the pit exit. And unfortunately his car goes over the wall. That is not what he would have wanted at all, considering he had a decent race and Charlie was running in the points until unfortunately he lost the car in the street conditions while running in 8th and had to retire from the Grand Prix. Now here's Miklos Gau already making a move on Lucas Levi, the Singaporean, going into turn 7. As now Mocha gets past Ricky Farquharson. Oh, Ricky Farquharson has been involved, I think, at the first corner as well, or something. And yes, he has. So Farquharson was also involved. I thought there was another incident there, but we didn't quite get to see. Let's have a look here. So was it Farquharson who went into? It looks like is this Sam Thompson in front of him, and he looks like he got hit by Mocho. So Mocho and Quag, both the guilty parties. So the Lotuses once again proving, unfortunately, that. Unfortunately, proving Michael Mocha that he may be a good driver, but he's so accident prone, it's ridiculous. I mean, you could do various little puns about Mocha and Aldo or something like that, and maybe Quag and Aldo, but I'll probably stop just there. As now Miklos Gal making the move on Levi going into turn 9, and he's made the move stick, and Volker's going to make it through turn 10 past Levi, so Levi's dropped down to 5th place, and he could be dropping more places in it if he's not careful from James Willows with Felix Sontag behind him in 7th place. There's George Roque, who's behind Evan Byrne, who's not made a great start either. And now as they go into turn 1, it's almost 3 wide. Levi's losing places hand over fist. He's lost it to both James Willows and Volker, but Willows has got past Volker as well. And that is a fantastic move there by Willows, as now Levi's trying to get back past Willows, but he can't quite do it. And now it's going to give Felix Sontag, Evan Byrne and George Roque and the 2 Force Indians behind a chance to make a move. So Levi has not made a particularly good start. It looks like the qualifying lap was a bit of a fluke, because unfortunately the pace just doesn't seem to be there in the Sauber unless he's got a high fuel load. As Sontag takes 6th place into turn 1, and now Levi has got Byrne, Roque, Holst and Moichen behind. And Felix Sontag has spun, has run lap 5, and he's going to lose position hand over fist. And, is he out of the race? I think he is. There's a wheel, and he is. So Felix Sontag is out of this Grand Prix on lap 5. So what has happened here? So let's go on board. So Sontag was running in 6th place. He was running behind Florian Volker and James Willows as they were coming up to turn, I believe it was turn 4. And as they came around, and and there was the Red Bull went wide. I believe that was James Willows, and he came back onto the track in front of Sontag, and unfortunately took him out there. That was very unfortunate there. Willows just goes wide as he comes round into turn 4, and then Willows makes contact with the back wheel of Sontag, which forces him to spin round and stop on a dangerous part of the circuit there, but he's got away with any damage. As no, here is the battle for 3rd between Miklos Gal, Waze Kuba, and Florian Volker. And Gal's trying to make a move on Kuba, coming into turn 9. And is he going to make it stick? No, he's not. And Volker's going to go right around the outside. And what a move by Volker. He's absolutely done one on Gal there, who's been absolutely duped right there. And that is a fantastic move by the German driver. But Gal is going to try and get back. He will not want to be mugged like that. And Gal's trying to get back around the outside, coming into turn 11. And he makes and turn 12, I should say. Now coming to 13, and now coming into turn 14, the final corner. As now here on board, and this is a battle, I believe, for 2nd place. And Volker has now finally got past Waze Kuba for 2nd, so he's been holding these guys up for a while, but it's finally worked for Florian Volker. But now Gal, who will be kind of annoyed that he got done by Volker just a few laps ago, he'll want to get past as soon as possible. He wants to get his revenge. Now Gal's they come through turn 8, and now they head for turn 9. And Gal's going to make the move into turn 9. Is he going to make it stick? It's going to be quite tight. Kuba goes wide. And Gal's done it. And Kuba does have a very heavy fuel. As you can see, look at that. 27 laps of fuel that he's still got to go. Whereas Volker is, in fact, actually pitting this lap with a low fuel. So it looks like a 3-stop strategy for the Red Bulls. Or at least for Volker anyway. We don't know what his teammate James Willows is doing. So we will find out in a minute. But Volker is going in this lap. And he pits for his first stop for the Grand Prix. It will obviously be a 3-stop strategy. So let's see if this works. It didn't work out for Evan Byrne when running at the Malaysian Grand Prix. So it'll be interesting to see how that works for this race. So Volker comes in the pits. Let's see how quick this stop will be. Looks like there are another couple of cars, a couple of pit crews, I should say, ready for some of the cars. As now into the pits comes Volker. Let's see how quick this stop will be for the German driver. And it will be, they'll probably fuel him for a fair amount of laps. They fueled him for 21 laps, so obviously he will do a 3-stop. So let's see where he comes out. He's 10.4, I should say, second stop. Comes out outside of the points. Looks like there's 3 pit crews. Looks like Lotus are out there. Force India, I think, were out there. As Michael Mocha does indeed come into pits. It looks like Williams, I think, are out there. So Michael Mocha comes in, so Wolf's in, and Levi is in the pits as well. Lucas Levi, who's dropped all the way down to 18th, so I don't know if he's actually had a problem, because I don't think he dropped that far down before, so he's obviously been involved in something. But Michael Mocho comes into the pits. He was involved, both Lotus involved at the first corner once again, unfortunately. Many drivers are not going to be happy with them And Levi, oh, he is replacing his front wing. So has Levi been involved in an incident here? I think he might have been, because I don't think he has a front wing. And oh, he was involved. So it was an incident. Levi, who dropped all the way down to 12th, I believe, before making a stop. He still had 26 laps to go. And he just collided with the front of with the back, I should say, of Robert Ionescu's car. And Robert Ionescu just does enough to avoid the wall. And Ionescu also lucky himself not to get any damage. So that was bad driving from Lucas Levi, showing his inexperience. He didn't exactly do spectacularly. Oh, he hasn't, I should say, done spectacularly in GP2. And I mean, I don't really know you can blame that. I mean, he was on the inside. Robert maybe did move across a little bit as Levi was trying to get to the inside there. So, I mean, I guess you could probably call that a racing incident. Probably, but I'm not exactly sure. But anyway, Levi comes to the pit, so his race is utterly ruined. Not the start to his GP4 OC career that he would have wanted in the slightest. As now Ricky Farquharson comes around, Ionescu is still going without any damage, as Volker has moved up to 30th place, having made the early stop. I don't think it's actually worked out that particularly well for Volker or Willows. So I believe James Willows has pitted. Oh, Mackenzie goes wide, coming through turn 8, and he almost goes into James Willows. He still stays on the grass. He's struggling to get back on the track. So it looks like both Red Bulls are doing the three-stop strategy, and at the moment it's not particularly working out well for them because they are stuck in traffic, because the field is still quite close after just 12 laps. Whereas Rumble here with Mackenzie just gets out of shape coming through the second part of turn 8, and it unsettles the car, and he struggles to get back on. It's just let the cars go going through at probably 140, 150 miles an hour, probably higher than that, I think, probably 170 the speed they're going. But as Mackenzie rejoins down in 14th place, as we look at all the cars going through, Kuba currently second, Joseph Willis currently well out in front as Miguel Gao now makes his stop from Peter, so it looks like he's probably going to do the three-stop strategy as well. So let's see how quick this stop will be. Let's see how many laps he does in. So it's only 17 laps, so it will be a three-stopper. So let's see how that works out for the Hungarian driver. Two stops seems to be the way to go in this series these days, so we will find out come the end of the race. It's a 9.6 second stop, so quite quick there. A bit of fuel, obviously fresh tyres. Now he can absolutely get the hammer down, hope to stay in front of Kuba, but he most likely won't get in front of Joseph Willis unless he has a really bad stop or has a spin or something, or any sort of problem, and he does just come out ahead of Florian Volker. That is very important for Gao. That is exactly what he needed. He needed to come out ahead of Volker there, and Volker, who is now stuck behind Sean Grant in the Virgin, not the best person to be stuck behind, or not the best car, I should say, to be stuck behind, as they come through into turn 12, now into turn 13, and now finally into turn 14, as now Volker is right behind Sean Grant as they come through turn 14 on to the front straight, and surely Volker is going to make a move coming into turn 1. He's got the slipstream, he's got the fresh tyres, and he's surely going to make it, but Grant isn't exactly making it easy for him, and Volker tries to make a move to the inside, but he can't quite do it, and as they come through, Volker's still stuck behind him. They head through turn 2 and before turn 3 is now here on board with Rifki Farquharson, who is right behind Jay McKenzie as they come into turn 1, and there's contact, and Farquharson goes around, McKenzie goes off, his nightmare race absolutely continues. Farquharson rejoins, McKenzie rejoins, they don't lose positions but just lose a whole heap of time. Really unnecessary from those two, just doesn't really do their race any benefits at all really. As now Alex Southgate for Mercedes comes into the pits for his first stop, I believe, of the race, so he'll be doing a three-stopper as well, as Southgate comes out in outside the points, outside most likely the top 10, as we do have a yellow flag. Oh, there's two cars off at the first corner. Willows is off, and oh, there's a big crash, and James Willows, Volker is out, and Ionescu's been involved, and there's another, and it looks like Armar Carr, I think, was the other one involved, and Volker's out. That was a horrendous crash. I saw that there were two cars. It looks like that it was James Willows who was spun around. He's managed to rejoin, but he hasn't got any damage. But that is a big crash. There's debris absolutely everywhere. And Armar Carr, oh no, he's actually still in the race, Armar Carr, but what has happened there? So something happened in turn 1, and oh, it looks like there's contact. So James Willows was trying to get past him, and I mean, I don't really know. I think James Willows probably could have backed off there. Gao just made it through. But Volker, who's still trying to get past Sean Grant as they came round. Cars were stuck in the middle of the track. And unfortunately, Volker just couldn't avoid Carr, and then he got hit behind from, I believe it was actually Carr's teammate, which was, I think, Robert Ionescu, and it was. So Ionescu, his poor start of the season continues as well. I suppose he just didn't really have any time to react to Ionescu, so it wasn't really his fault. It just unfortunately happened that way. That is a big crash that's taken out Florian Volker, and Armar Carr, his race will be ruined. But that would be very, very important for the championship, or it could be, certainly, come the rest of the season. And now Jay Mackenzie's spun again. That must be about the third time this race he has done that. It is just not going well for him at all. He was in the votes for the unluckiest driver for 2010, but he didn't win it. It was actually George Roke, his current teammate, who won that. So two of the most unlucky drivers on the grid in one team. You probably think that probably wouldn't go very well. But at the moment, it's certainly going better for Roke than it is for Mackenzie. But let's see. Let's hope that Mackenzie's luck does, in fact, change soon, because he deserves that luck, considering, I mean, he was a great driver alongside Roke at Salvers. Now here on board with Ricky Farquharson, who's trying to go on the inside of Sean Grant coming into turn 9, and Grant spins. He loses control of the car as Farquharson tries to make he makes the move, and Grant just loses it completely himself, just loses the car altogether. He'll be pitting soon, obviously. He'll be on a 3-stop strategy. So Grant rejoins, he just loses a place and loses another whole heap of time as he rejoins. We're now on lap 20, so we're not even halfway yet, but this race is once again another fantastic race. Now here is a big battle here between George Roke, Fredo Motion and Viggo Holst, with I believe that is Miklos Gal in front, or is it Evan Byrne? It might actually be Evan Byrne, I believe, and it is Evan Byrne actually in front, as now Motion trying to make a move on Roke going into turn 1, and he makes it stick, and now Roke could be overtaken by Viggo Holst in a minute if he's not careful. The two Force Indians having a great race at the moment, but Viggo Holst now comes into the pits for Force India. So Holst, who is impressed so far this season for Force India, let's hope that his good season continues. There are many people in the community, in the series, I should say, that are saying that Holst deserves a drive at at a top team, I should say. Force India are a decent team, but they feel that he could go higher than he is right now, as James Willows comes in for his second stop of the race. It's just not been a good race for him at all. Involved in that crash with Florian Volker, or involved in the crash should be with Armar, which unfortunately took out his teammate Florian Volker. There was a brief yellow flag out actually. I saw when they were in the pit, so obviously something has happened. So let's have a look to see. So Joseph Willis, who's running in 18th, and it was Sam Thompson in front. Sam Thompson, who has now been lapped by Joseph Willis, who goes wide coming through the second part of turn 8, does what Mackenzie does, but unfortunately does go off. He nearly controlled it, but he just went over the curb and lost control of the car, and Ionescu manages to get through without any issues. Now Roland Moitin comes into the pits for his, I believe, his first stop of the race. Quite tight on fuel, only 0.6 litres of fuel left remaining, so that was very, very tight there from Force India, but managed to work nonetheless, and it looks like they will, actually, I don't think they will get to the end of the race. It looks like they haven't quite fueled him enough at the end, so it will be a 2-stop, so they're not going for the 1-stop, it seems. So Roland Moitin comes out of the pits, a 12.2 second stop, pretty slow. I imagine they have fueled him a lot, as now Viggo Holst does jump Moitin in the pits. Viggo Holst was behind Moitin, and Moitin has now got in front, so it's going to be a very close battle between the two Force Indians till the end of the race by the looks of it. So a battle for a decent haul of points for the Force India team, as now Miklos Gal comes into the pits for his second stop at the race, 20 laps, so he'll have to pit obviously before the end, as he's on the 3-stop strategy. A 10.4 second stop for the Hungarian driver, who as I've said before, has made his feelings quite clear about McLaren, and that he wants to possibly join another team next season. As you can see, both Force Indians have actually jumped Miklos Gal, which is quite interesting here. And now Roke has just got in front as well. That's not what he wanted. And Ricky Farquharson is out of the race, and unfortunately for Sauber, their race gets more and more worse. Levi is still in the race, I believe, at this moment in time, but unfortunately for Farquharson, it does not go well. He has scored points. He scored a 7th place, but unfortunately, it's not been the best of starts for Sauber this season, and it looks like it was a problem that forced Ricky Farquharson to retire from the race. Let's have a look and see what it was. So he was running in P13, running on his own really. He had plenty of litres of fuel. He would have had 1 stop, and it was a loose wheel, and it was just after he went to the pits as well, which was quite unfortunate, which meant that he couldn't make it back a whole lap, and that is not what Ricky Farquharson, the Indonesian driver who has a big following like Rio Haryanto from real life F1, but unfortunately for Ricky, unfortunately for his fans, they'll still be delighted that they have an Indonesian driver in F1, but unfortunately they won't be too happy that he's retiring. This means there'll be a lot of angry fans in the stands if they have bothered to travel to Turkey, as Levi, his teammate, goes past him. Fellow Asian driver, obviously Levi's Singaporean, so we will actually have a Singaporean driver in the Singapore Grand Prix, which will please those fans at least come the end of the season. Evan Byrne in 3rd there. Well, I don't believe he's actually made a stop yet. I believe he's still going. Now Miklos Gal, who's right behind George Roke, battling here for 6th place. Gal, who unfortunately at the moment the 3-stop strategy is not particularly working out brilliant. He needs to get past Roke as soon as possible if he wants to make the 3-stop strategy work and get a gap to the cars and maybe catch up to the Force Indians in front. But Gal now trying to make a move on Roke coming into turn 9. Is he going to make the move stick side by side? And Gal gets it done, it looks like. Or is Roke going to hold it around the outside? Roke does just about hold it around the outside. There was almost contact there. But Roke does back off and Gal does take the place. That was so close. I thought there was going to be contact there. But they both got away with it and they both continue on their way. As now Adam Wolf comes in the pits for Williams. See how quick the stop will be for him. Wolf with his helmet that he made himself, which does look pretty good, I have to say. Let's see how long his stop will be. Will he be fueled to the end? No, it won't. So he'll be, looks like, doing a 3-stop strategy as well. And he does a 9.4 second stop, and he will drop down to 14th place. Let's see how well he can do. Wolf, who unfortunately has not had the greatest season. Many people believe that he could do better in a better car, but unfortunately it's just not worked out particularly well for him. Now Joseph Willis comes in for his first stop of the race, very tight on fuel, only I believe that's 0.7 litres left, and so it looks like he will be going for the one stop unless the team don't fuel him to the end, but I imagine they probably will. And let's see how quick this stop will be, and let's see if they do fuel him to the end, and the answer is yes they do, because he's fueled essentially to lap 62, and we only have 58 laps, so it looks like Joseph Willis is going to make it to the end of the race pretty comfortably. So it's looking really good for Joseph Willis at the moment. He hasn't really been touched this race. He took the lead at the first corner. He hasn't really looked back. Huber, who's managed to gain 2nd place, I believe, because of Gal's 3-stop strategy that has not really worked out for him well at all. Now here we are having a battle for, it looks like 8th place between Roland Moishin, Alex Southgate and James Willis, as now Southgate makes a move ahead of Moishin going into turn 9, but Moishin is going to hold it around the outside. It's still side by side for the last point spot here, and as Southgate got the move done as they head through turn 10. And is he going to make it? And he's still side by side as they head into turn 12. That was turn 11, I should say. So now head into turn 12, and it looks like Southgate has got the move done, and yes he has, and he moves up into 8th, and Moishin is forced to concede the position, and if he's not careful, James Willis is going to make the position as well. Willis trying to go to the inside, but he can't quite do it, but he'll have to wait. As now Waze Kuba comes in, I believe, for his final stop of the race. I believe Kuba has pitted once before, unless I don't remember it, but my memory isn't the best, so he could have done, but anyway, he comes in for his possibly final stop of the race. So let's see if he does. 1.3 litres left in the tank. Will they fuel him to the end? I imagine they will. That would be pretty stupid if they didn't, and you can see 27 laps, so they will fuel Kuba to the end, so it's looking pretty good for Ferrari at the moment to possibly get a 1-2, which is exactly what they will need in this championship, especially with the constructors, but also for the Tifosi. And Kuba comes out a 12.4 second stop, and it's looking very good for him at the moment. It's looking very comfortable for Ferrari as well. Haven't really been touched all weekend. They've really dominated qualifying, and now they are pretty much dominating the race at the moment, as Kuba comes out in 5th place. And Evan Byrne finally makes his first stop of the race. 35 laps he has been going, and it's looking pretty good for him at the moment. And let's see if the team will film to the end. As I said, I imagine they probably will do, because it would make perfect sense. And the answer is yes, they do. 26 laps, which means they will go to, I believe it's lap 62. Unless my calculations are wrong, but I believe they are correct. So Evan Byrne comes out 11.9. A pretty decent stop there from McLaren. Not known for their particularly great stops around this time era, especially when it comes to next year. They need to hope it's better than it is in real life. Let's see where Evan Byrne come. It looks like just inside the points. Now James Willows comes in for his final stop of the race. Although, actually, hang on. He actually had some litres in, so... Oh, he had a problem. Oh, James Willows had a loose wheel, so he had exactly what Ricky Farquharson had, but he fortunately had it later on the lap, and he managed to go around half a lap with an issue, which is pretty good there for James Willows. He managed to get to the end just as he was trying to attack Roland Moichin for the final point in front of him. And that's very unfortunate for James Willows. That could affect his points tally at the end of the race. As he comes around turn 8 and he slithers to the pits with his problem. Let's see if that affects him coming in the race, because he will now go to the end. Or will he? Because actually, no, he won't, because I don't believe he's actually going to make it to the end. They haven't fueled him to the end. He will only go to lap 51 with only 15 laps of fuel. So that has not worked out for Red Bull. I don't really see why they haven't fueled him to the end. So, but James Williams comes out in a lonely 9th place. Here is Roman Quagg, who's right behind. Is this Robert Ionescu? I believe it is. And he's battling with Alan Wolf in front. And Quagg goes around the outside of both as he goes around Ionescu. Is he going to go around Thompson as well? And the answer is no. It's Alan Wolf, sorry, I should say. And it's side by side. And what a move that was by Quagg. And if he completes it round both, that would be amazing. Originally, he was trying to get past Wolf. And Wolf defended to the inside. And Quagg decided, hey, I'll go around the outside. See if that works. And it worked out an absolute treat. Ionescu, unfortunately, got mugged there. And he almost got mugged Wolf, so did by Quagg. That was a fantastic move there by the French driver, but unfortunately I don't know if he's made it stick, and he hasn't. He has to stick behind him. Well done to Quagg. They're one of the moves of the race, and that is Azamar Carr's actually gone off the track. As you can see, George Rope was in the pit lane, and that's just coming into turn 12. Just goes off of his own accord there from Carr. It just really sums up Toro Rosso's race. It has not been the race for them at all. They've had horrendous bad luck at the start of the season. Bad luck seems to be our new favourite catchphrase of the championship. Everything is to do with bad luck these days. As George Rope comes in for his final stop at the race on lap 41, 21 laps of fuel has been put into the tank, so that will comfortably get him to the end of the race, a 10.4 second stop. So I imagine Rope will probably be inside the points. We haven't really seen much of him today. It's been quite quiet, but he's driven a respectable race. But I suppose there have been battles elsewhere throughout the field. There, James Willis sets the fastest lap of the race. And now here is a battle for third place between Evan Byrne and Vigo Holst, and this is full, and well, actually no, it isn't necessarily full position, because Evan Byrne has got to pit before the end of the race, or is this, no, it's not Evan Byrne, sorry, it is Vigo Holst who's got to pit, not Vigo Holst, Miguel Scow. I cut that, and is completely muddled up there, that was my bad. That is Miguel Scow, who has obviously got less fuel than these guys, but he's going to have to pit before the end, and he's going to pit this lap to be exact, so he's trying to get the hammer down, but once he comes up the pitch, he will really put the hammer down for the last 15 laps of this race, as he is doing the 3 stops, so it's not particularly worked out for Gal. Well, it would have been better, I think, doing a 2-stop or a 1-stop. It certainly worked out for Joseph Willers, and it looks like it will probably work out for Evan Byrne as well. He is, I think, around about he's in the podium positions as Miklos Gal comes in, but he'll really put the hammer down Gal. So if there are any problems in front, he will pounce on them instantly. We know how good a driver Gal is. He won the 2009 championship. There's a reason why he is a world champion in this series, so we cannot count him out, certainly. Let's see how quick this stop will be for the Hungarian driver. And Miklos Gal does a pit stop of 10 seconds, exactly 10 seconds dead. 18 laps of fuel, he'll be fueled to the end. Obviously for Gal, looks like he will drop position, and Evan Byrne actually isn't on the podium at the moment, but I believe the two Force Indias will have to pit before the end. So at the moment, it's looking good for Byrne to get a podium out of this race. And as you can see, Viggo Holst is coming in for his final stop of the race. I was correct in assuming that. So Viggo Holst, who's had a very good race, and so has Roland Moichin, actually, to be fair. They've both had really good races, but especially Viggo Holst, who has shone so far this season. Definitely been quite a surprise package for Force India. And he comes into the pits. Let's see how quick the stop will be for Force India. And the pit stop will be, as he's in the pit lane for 30 seconds, it'll just be a quick splash of fuel at the end, 17 laps in the tank. It's a 9.36 stop, that's very quick there from the Force India crew. And let's see where he will come out on track. This will be very important with regards to where he'll finish in the end, Holst. And he comes out, I believe, which is around 5th place. Roland Moichin comes in for his final stop of the race. Moichin, who actually hasn't had as good a race as Moichin, but he's actually done a pretty good job. As James Wills now comes in for his final stop of the race. He had 2 laps. Unfortunately, it has been a pretty dreadful race for James Willows. It's not been the race that he would have wanted at all. That is not, and he comes out the pits 8.8 seconds dead, I should say, for that pit stop. So he will come out just outside the points. And now here is a battle between Miklos Gal and Viggo Holst for 4th place, I should say. And Viggo Holst has caught to Miklos Gal. Gal, who has not managed to get away from Holst. So Holst is doing very impressively to catch a McLaren, considering Gal is on much fresher tyres. And wow, Viggo Holst makes a move for 4th place coming into turn 9. Very, very impressive for the Danish driver there. And he looks set to get another 4th place. That is fantastic there from the Danish driver. And he comfortably gets away from Gal. That is very, very surprising. That is not something we expected to see. And unfortunately for McLaren, that strategy, the 3-stop strategy, has not particularly worked in their favour. But it's not certainly worked for Gal. For Byrne, his 1-stop, it's worked better for him because he's got the podium, at least. So now here is Robert Ionescu, who's battling with Sam Thompson with 5 laps left. They are battling for 15th place. It's not the race that Ionescu wanted or Sam Thompson wanted. It's certainly not Ionescu. He's been involved in a lot of incidents today. And he's going to try and get past Thompson coming into turn 9. Is he going to make the move stick? Going into 7th gear, 305 kilometers an hour, and there's contact, and Inescu spun. Thompson goes off, coming through turn 9 and into turn 10. It has been the race from hell for Toro Rosso. They will want to get out of Turkey as soon as possible and head on the first flight over to Spain. You can see, I mean, Thompson did move in front there, and Inescu tried to move back across in front of the Williams and Thompson there, but it's not worked out very well in their favour at all. And Lucas Levi's out the race. Levi's race, who unfortunately went down here after a superb qualifying, and unfortunately for him, he's set to retire from the Grand Prix with just 3 laps to go. That is not particularly good for the Singaporean driver. It's just not been the race for him, although, I mean, we weren't expecting him to keep on the podium, but it was a unbelievable qualifying. Everyone was so shocked when he did that lap, and unfortunately for him, it has not gone too well in the race. He dropped like a stone in the first few laps, and he was already at the points by like probably about lap 10, which showed unfortunately that the qualifying lap was a fluke. But Levi, as he comes around turn 1, he will pull off the track soon enough, because obviously he will not be able to make it to the end with a blown engine or whatever the problem is. It's unfortunate for Levi, because he's made a debut. As I said, he hadn't particularly shone in GP2, but I suppose you could say the same about Sasha Banks, even though she hasn't been a particular brilliant driver, that she's managed to race in F1, hence why she raced when she raced with Toyota in 2009. So, and she did a decent job when she actually finished a race. So I mean, it's not necessarily a bad appointment. I mean, GP2 has got a list of very talented drivers, so it'll be interesting to see come the end of the season which GP2 drivers will make the step up to the top tier for next season. But anyway, Levi, whose engine finally gives up the ghost coming through turn 8, and he will now pull off the circuit as just as Viggo Holst actually comes through there. Goes a little bit wide, I think Holst there, gets a bit affected by Levi coming through there. Gal in 5th place, Roke is actually in 6th. As we now look, and Roman Quagg is now out the race, and Roman Quagg for Lotus, it's unfortunately been a nightmare race for him. It's been a nightmare race for the 2 Lotus drivers, and Roman Quagg will retire from this race. That is around, I believe, that is the first corner actually. That is at the pit exit, and it looks like another engine failure for Lotus, and it was in fact an engine failure for Quagg. And it's unfortunate that he just missed the pits, but obviously it was a problem that was too terminal to be fixed. Roman Quagg, who is coming up the back straight part through turn 11, through turn 10, and now as he comes through into turn 12, and well, that was turn 11, coming into turn 12 I should say, and you see the engine problem occurs there, and obviously the engine must already be going at this point, hence why he missed the pits there. Quagg probably wanted to see maybe if the problem wasn't too major, but obviously he comes around the final corner. There comes out the plume of smoke from the back, proving that unfortunately his engine has also given up the ghost like Levi's, and he has to pull off the track going into turn 1. Unfortunate there for Quagg, who scored his first points earlier this season. And now we are on the final lap of the race. You can see here that Waze Cooper has actually caught up to Joseph Willis, so this could be a fascinating final lap here. So Joseph Willis, who is set to take a very comfortable victory, and he essentially is still comfortable, but depending on if there are any team orders at Ferrari, Cooper is only a second behind, so he has caught up with him. Cooper repeated quite a few laps later than him, as Miklos Gau's in 4th, Viggo Holst in 3rd, and Roke's 5th. And Evan Burners in the pits. Has he had a problem? Because he still had enough fuel to get to the end. He had 1.7, and I think that he lost his front wing. Has something happened to Burn here? I believe it has. And as we look at the replay, what is happening here? And is this with lap traffic? He was running with 2 laps to go on the penultimate lap of the race, and as he came into turn 4, and there was contact. He went into the back there of the version of Sean Grant. That is unbelievable. And with just 2 laps to go, Evan Byrne, who is set to take a comfortable podium, is now going to get, by the looks of it, absolutely nothing, as he's going to have to go into the pits. Most of the points finishers have gone past him, except, I believe, Rella Moichin. But here is Viggo Holst, who is set to take, as he overtakes Byrne, his first podium. And you go see what a race this has been. And he goes past there, and unless he makes a mistake, Viggo Holst has got his podium absolutely sewn up, but also handed to him on a plate. Yeah, that's unbelievable, as now Miklos Gau goes around the outside of the Virgin there, and they come through. So it looks like Miklos Gau is going to take 5th place, and Roke is now going to Roke will take actually I should say Roke will take 5th place. Miklos Gau in fact will take 4th place, as they will now overtake him coming onto the back straight after turn 10. So what an ending to this race is. I mean, Turkey has been known to throw up fantastic races. If anyone remembers last season when Evan Byrne took the lead from Volker on the final lap to take the win of the race. Does anyone remember that? I imagine they do. but it is an absolutely unbelievable race this is. So Evan Byrne set to get absolutely nothing by the look of it. He's dropped down to 8th, so that depends if James Willows actually is going to be able to catch him in time before the end. But James Willows here in the lead at the moment. It's been a very comfortable weekend for him. He's taken the pole position, and is set to take the race win. I don't know if he's actually got the fastest lap or not, as I believe it was his brother actually that at the moment has got the fastest lap. We will see come the end of the race. As now here is Joseph Williams coming down the back straight through turn 10 for the final time. Now he comes through turn 11. Kuba is closing on us. We've got another yellow flag going into turn 1, so obviously something has happened there. But it doesn't matter as Joseph Williams is coming down the back straight. Kuba is close. He's only less than her second, I should say, behind him. As now they come into turn 12. They come into the non-split corner, turn 13. It has been a very comfortable victory for Joseph Williams, and he is set to take his second consecutive victory in a row. Fantastic for Ferrari, fantastic for the Tifosi, and Joseph Williams comes down the front straight, and Joseph Williams takes his second race win of the season for Ferrari, making it a Ferrari 1-2 with Waze Kuba just behind him. Congratulations to them both. Fantastic race by them. Jay McKenzie set to come home in a disappointing 11th place. Not the race for him. He'll need to get on the first flight out of Turkey to Spain. Adam Wolf comes home in 12th place. Robert Ionescu, he was involved in a lot of incidents this race. He will come home in 13th place. It's been a horrendous start to the season for Robert, who is said to have been interested in trying to get to Red Bull for next season, but this start of the season will not help him at all. But Viggo Holst will take his first podium in the OC. Congratulations to him. What a race he's had. Mikhail Scal will come home in 4th. George Rote will come home in 5th. Alex Southgate will come home in 6th, just ahead of Moyton in 7th. And James Williams will get a point out of this race. Amar Khan will come home in 15th place. Not a good race for the two Toro Rossos at all. Evan Byrne will come home in 9th. It's very, very unfortunate there. He was set to take a comfortable podium. The one stop for him certainly worked to prove that Mikhail Scal's 3-stop strategy didn't exactly work as well, because Byrne was still pretty much in the league at the end. He would have taken 3rd. He was never really was close enough to challenge the two Ferraris, but he would have taken 3rd. But unfortunately, he's going to get absolutely nothing, as Sean Grant comes home in 16th. And Michael Mucho, despite all that happened in this race, he's set to take a 10th place, a impressive showing from the British driver. But I imagine a number of drivers will have a lot to say to him after this race. But Michael Mucho comes around the final corner, and he's set to take 10th place. He'll take what would have been the final point spot in 2010, but we are still obviously running the old point system, so he unfortunately will get nothing. Now we look at Waze Kuba, who's in 2nd place. And we will now go to the race results. So Joseph Williams wins with Waze Kuba 2nd, Viggo Holst taking his first ever podium in the OC 3rd, Mikhail Scal 4th, George Rote 5th, Alex Southgate 6th, Roland Moyton 7th, and James Williams completing the points in 8th with Evan Byrne 9th and Michael Mucho 10th. With the following drivers all a lap down: Jamie Kenzie, Alan Wolf, Robert Ionescu, Sam Thompson, Amar Carr, Sean Grant, with Quag and Levi still being classified, with Park Hussein, Volkus, Sontag and Quinlan out of the race. So now the fastest laps for the Grand Prix. And the fastest lap was, in fact, set by James Williams, which I was correct by over a second ahead of Moyton in 2nd. Southgate 3rd, Holst 4th, Gal 5th, Volker 6th, Roke 7th, Sontag 8th, Barkley 9th, and Cooper completing the top 10. Wolf 11th, Byrne only in 12th, not particularly good pace from him, even though he got 12th, even though he got 3rd, he would have got 3rd. Willows 13th, Mocha 14th, Ionescu 15th, Levi, Quag, Carr, Thompson, Grant, McKenzie, and Quinlan in last place. And here are the points there. So Joseph Williams now takes the points lead by just a single point, with Kuban also on 24 points, just 1 point behind. Volker 6 points behind on 18. Holst with 15, 3 points behind. Gal on 10. James Williams on 9. Roke on 8 in 8th place, and has already beaten his points total from last season. Ren Jans in 9th, but he will unfortunately drop down the order in the standings. Alex Southgate in 10th. Quag in 11th. Moyton in 12th. Carr 13th. Fox in 14th. And Sontag in 15th, with the following drivers having yet to score a point in this season: Jamie Kenzie, Sean Grant, Michael Mucho, Robert Ionescu, Stan Thompson, Anna Wolf, Xavier Quinlan, and Lucas Levi. And Ferrari at the moment have got a 15-point lead in the constructors ahead of McLaren, who in turn have got a 7-point gap over Red Bull in 3rd, 9-point gap between Force India and Red Bull, and Renault, who are in 5th place, just 1 point ahead of Sauber and Mercedes, both on 7, Lotus with 3, Toro Rosso also with 3, with Virgin and Williams on 0 points. Well, that has been the Turkish Grand Prix. Another fantastic race this season. All the races, I think, have been really good so far this season. It hasn't really been a particularly bad one. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to vote for your driver of the day and give the race a rating out of 10. So thank you very much for watching, guys. We will see you for the next round of the series, the Spanish Grand Prix at the Circuit de Catalunya. Thank you for watching, and we will see you there.